A critical tool in Australia's battle against the COVID virus was the rollout of vaccines. And for many frontline jobs, governments insisted they were compulsory.
We have agreed to mandate vaccination.
It is not a decision made lightly, but it is all about protecting the roadmap to reopening.
And we will not consent.
Although the vast majority of Australians took the jab, there were still pockets of resistance and a series of legal challenges to the vaccine mandate. Nearly all of them failed, but last month, opponents of the mandate had a partial win.
I think that speaks volumes for how my clients feel about the decision.
But it's important that we take stock of it as a country so we don't let it happen again.
It's by no means the death knell for vaccine mandates. The decision is limited in effect, but experts warn there are lessons to be learnt.
The vaccines do work, and that when we require people to be vaccinated, we need to justify it very carefully and use good process.
Key senior decision makers do need to take into account people's human rights when making decisions.
And for hundreds of Queensland workers who chose not to get the jab and lost their jobs, it could open the way for compensation.
Oh, financially, it's been a huge burden. I'm not ready to stop work yet. I still have a lot to offer.
The Queensland Supreme Court case related to more than 70 employees of the state ambulance and police services who were suspended or dismissed in late 2021 for not being vaccinated. The ambulance workers' case succeeded because of the wording of their employment contracts, but the mandate for the police service was ruled unlawful for a very different reason.
The Police Commissioner was found to not have properly considered the human rights implications of requiring people to be vaccinated in order to go and do their jobs as police officers.
The judge found one human right under Queensland law was limited by the vaccine mandate: the right not to be subjected to medical treatment without full, free and informed consent. But on balance, given the directions were made under an emergency, the limitation on this right was demonstrably justified.
The judge actually, reflected that it was reasonable for government to actually make vaccine mandate policies in a setting where you're also having to weigh up other considerations in a pandemic, and that would include things like, do people have the right to not be infected by someone who might be coming to, attend to a car crash or perhaps giving you a speeding fine, and protecting the community at large through attaining high vaccination coverage rates.
The problem was the judge found the Queensland Commissioner of Police at the time, in her decision-making, didn't give this Human Rights Balancing Act due consideration.
It's not enough to just tick a box and say we've looked at human rights briefly. They need to be genuinely considered because of the coercive nature of mandates.
Just stay nice and still for me.
This complex human rights assessment can change over the course of a pandemic.
We can't just set and forget with mandatory vaccination policies.
You've had a chance to read the consent form. Any questions?
By the time 97% of Australians had at least one dose of the vaccine and we were catching COVID in the community, the added benefit of absolutely requiring someone to vaccinate for their job was very marginal.
Trying to make sense of all this is former Queensland police officer and civilian employee of more than 30 years' service, Della Merritt. Working as a communications officer in Cairns in 2021, she chose not to get vaccinated.
I was concerned that the vaccine was provisional, that was in an experimental stage. And then I was without pay from early December 2021 until my dismissal in the 24th of January 2023.
Della Merritt hasn't found paid employment since then. She's now living in a caravan and is volunteering at a rural motorvan park. She's still upset with the way she's been treated.
I felt that I'd been alienated from everything that I'd known for so long. Police were my family. I'd been there a long time. I've gone from having a very good wage and being self-sufficient to considering everything that I buy, and it's more I buy on need, not want.
Although Della Merritt was not directly involved in the Supreme Court case, her lawyer says the ruling is relevant to her ongoing legal battle.
It will have flow-on effects, I believe, for other issues that are going on. For starters, of course, there are many police who have already been terminated on the back of what has now been revealed to be unlawful directives.
We now have hundreds of ambulance and police officers who were sacked or suspended for not following what we now know is an unlawful direction. Are they now entitled to compensation?
Well, that's all the matters that we are working through as a result of this decision.
It's a bit of a legal mess, isn't it?
Well, unfortunately, that's the decision of the Supreme Court, and we'll work through all of that.
Shannon Fentiman is Queensland's Health Minister.
So there are some learnings for us, absolutely. But I think the biggest learning coming out of COVID-19 was to follow the health advice of experts. And ultimately, that's why Justice Martin found that the limit on people's human rights was justified.
And Justice Glenn Martin did indeed find the vaccine mandate was the most effective way at the time of controlling the spread of COVID. But he also warned this mandate tool should be used carefully.
By making somebody do something, you create anger among them, potentially about other vaccines. So we're needing to look very carefully at this issue now.
And it shows the importance of process to the legitimacy of a vaccine mandate.